Thank you. Thank you. See, we have an good night. We have an overflow crowd, is what I was trying to say. And I just came from my diction class. Well, this is the Dick Cavett Show. The reason it is here and that I'm here is that ever so often someone comes up to me on the street and says, why don't you have a television show? So somebody gave me one. And before I give it back, if I make some foolish move like that, I thought it would be nice to get some of my friends on, find out who my friends are on short notice, and have them come on the show. So I'm happy to say that the lady we were going to have here today is here, in fact. And she is not only one of the funniest women the planet has produced, but we're old friends. Now, I know those two things don't always go together, but we struggled and starved and kept each other from going into deep despondency down in the village years ago in small clubs and so on. And I guess by now you know, of course, that I'm talking about Nancy Reagan. By that I mean, of course, the queen of comedy. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a fast and bumpy ride with Miss Joan Rivers. We'll be right back. I don't need a cue card to introduce my guest. Can you hold it up a little higher? Because she is an old friend of mine. I'm assuming this camera's on even though there are no lights on it. Would I be safe in assuming that? See, when you're breaking in a new set, you never know. If I've been talking to you with the side of my head showing, we'll know that it's on. Could you nod if I'm looking into the right one? It's making me nauseated. Yes, well, don't gas too long and not bring your guest out. I first laid eyes on Miss Rivers. What do you think I was going to say? This is not the Dr. Ruth show. It's only her studio. She thinks of it as that. Where was I? I first laid eyes on Miss Rivers when we shared a stage, more or less, in a little place down in Greenwich Village on Grove Street called Upstairs at the Downstairs. Not to be confused with Upstairs at the Duplex, which, no, I mean, that's what it was called, so I just confused them. We shared it. Oh, to hell with it. I don't want to tell this anyway. It was called Upstairs at the Duplex. It was on Grove Street. There was a hot shot place called Upstairs at the Downstairs. We played sometimes to crowds that we outnumbered. And one cold night, I took the subway down there and sat with the lovely lady who ran the place, Jan Wallman, and nobody came. And so I just walked up and looked at the ceiling and thought, well, I'll pretend I did a show and went home. That's depressing. Almost as bad as when 30 people come and it sounds like no one arrived. But I hear Joan laughing sympathetically in the wings. I hope that's Joan. As you know, she has, with her very healthy combination of talent, ambition, organization, dedicated skill, and the fact that she used to carry a steno pad and work arduously on each set that she did in a club and check what went on and what went well and what didn't and so on, always impressed me. We all knew she'd make it, and one night we all sat down there and watched on a black and white set as she appeared with Johnny Carson for the first time, and the rest is history. We applauded, and then we all went out and got sick. But we went back on stage at that club, and I, for one, am glad it's still there. Will you welcome, please, the princess, at least, of comedy, if not the queen, because she's very modest, Miss Joan Rivers, right here. Perhaps you,
The queen of comedy is Boy George, just to put things right.
Oh,
but that's
sorry. Yes, I knew something was wrong. Well, what a reception. And I was afraid they wouldn't recognize you.
Yeah.
That's very nice. You know what just flashed through my mind when you adjusted your invisible microphone?
Yes.
Way back, you were on the first time I stepped in front of an ABC camera on a...
Oh.
Oh, do you remember that?
have done every show you've ever done.
I know.
I've done the first show you've ever done. The first time you did a half-hour
That's right.
thing on ABC. Who was there? Then you did your morning show on ABC. Who was there?
That's right.
Then you did your afternoon show on ABC. Who was there?
Yeah.
Then you did your PBS show. Who was there?
I
and
know.
voila.
And here you are.
Here I- and-
it's amazing. Whenever my first choices aren't available, she pops
It's
right
amazing.
in.
And you have Eddie Murphy on, and I said to him today, don't be an idiot. Do Eddie Murphy the first show, because I would, and then put me on the second show.
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
women... Well, you think you're good enough to follow Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, well, try. Because Eddie Murphy, I would rather watch Eddie Murphy than me.
That's funny.
So-
Joan has insecurity. Now, you don't mind my blabbing that, do you?
No.
That the fact that someone with all your success and so
Sure.
on can still worry a little bit.
A little bit? Right now, every time there's silence, you figure, well, that's it. It's all over. I keep the dress and I go home.
I know, and-
It's just over.
Another version of that is, I remember years ago when you were all over the place and you said, if I'm not on 2 days, I say, book me on the Virginia Graham show or something.
Yes,
I'm afraid
yes.
they'll forget me.
Well, don't you find that people, no offense to an audience, but they forget you. I mean, you're out of touch. They just forget you so easily.
Yeah.
Hollywood Squares was wonderful because you could sit like an, how much can you say? This is cable.
Oh, take a shot.
Well, you could sit like a and I do nothing.
No, you can say Hollywood Squares. Did I miss something?
No, but you could sit there and just play a game, and it kept you in front of America. And it was
That's right.
wonderful. It was wonderful, Hollywood Squares.
Where would a kid like you pick up words like this? It must be from your daughter.
My daughter's school. My daughter went to Beverly Hills High School.
Yeah.
And came home with expressions that I could not believe. I said, what did you just say? Oh, how about this, Mom? And what? And it upsets you as a mother.
And
It gets you crazy.
inventive things, too, that we didn't even have.
Or places to put things
Yeah, I know.
that you didn't know where to put them. You know.
Catch-all, yes.
You can put that where? Oh.
Yeah.
Might be fun. Let me call Dad.
Right.
You just...
Undiscovered orifices have been, well, I wonder
Not
if...
after Vanessa Williams. Nothing's undiscovered.
Now, wait a minute.
Oh,
No,
oh,
no.
don't give me boo-boo. I happen to love Miss America. You people probably take it as high camp.
Any Miss America? I mean,
Any
the contest.
contest.
Yeah.
I pick My Little Tramp, and I pick her early. And did you see the one this year? Her talent was walking on glass.
Are you serious?
Did you see
Intentionally?
it?
No, I did not.
What's your talent, honey? Walking on glass. Walking on glass.
Yeah.
And then her feet bled. I was laughing. And her feet bled.
Is she telling the truth? Because I did...
Am I telling the truth?
I miss it.
What's your talent? I walk on glass.
And
I
my
said,
feet bleed.
and
Yeah.
no, they weren't supposed to. That shows how much she had practiced. And suddenly... So Miss America...
You assume she had tried it before.
You would hope.
Yeah.
I just think I'll go for the moment. I'll just walk on glass. What the hell? See what happens. But Vanessa Williams then did all these lesbian pornography pictures. You remember those? And then comes on the Tonight Show and is crying. I made a mistake. A mistake? Her foot was behind her head. That was no mistake. A mistake. Because I love Miss America.
Look, you know how sometimes you misplace things. Do you know where your feet are at every moment?
I do.
I was thinking of suppose there were a dumb Miss America who was supposed to walk on glass and they ran out of glass, so they crumpled up a lot of Dixie cups on them. No, it's almost a joke, isn't it? Let's see, if we were working together with a typewriter, it'd be funny as hell.
Do you remember when they turned us down at Monitor? Oh. Ha-ha, Monitor.
Oh, yes.
We were both starving.
Yeah.
And NBC, we were working the club upstairs in the duplex, which you talked about.
Right.
And NBC decided, let's go and find another Mike and Elaine, who were very big then, girl-boy teams we were then.
Yeah.
And they brought us into NBC, and they sat us down. They did tapes and tapes and tapes. And you were wonderful, because you did accents. You forgot.
Any idea where those are?
I
No,
have a great
what I remember is when Edgar walked in on us in your apartment and we were improvising.
Eddie,
Did that sound bad? Wait a minute, there's more of this. We'll be right back after this, if that's the one that's on. I noticed they're sneaking in some of your lines on the screen, even as, well, gee, it's nice to have you back. Remember that opening to a show we did a long time ago where I had a different jacket on?
You were a different jacket, and I was a lot younger.
No, I have a bet that nobody watching has probably really noticed that I have a different jacket on. It's just that during the break, it was so warm in here. And then Joan's clothing began to come
my skirt opened and things like that. So we just stopped for a second and made things a little neater.
But now we have the performer's task of struggling back to the bright level where we were before.
Make someone's day a little better, a little happier.
No, by the way...
Usually it's my accountant.
I had to appreciate your condition for coming on the show, which was that you would not be expected to get one laugh, and in fact that you refused to get one. So I think that's real nice, and shows a nice modesty. No, we were talking about, I think, the time Edgar walked in. And,
we were improvising.
We were improvising, trying to work out our new lives as monitor comedians and as a team. And we had the apartment festooned with audio tape that we had gotten all tangled up. They looked like cobwebs all over the place. I'm surprised he didn't do that David Niven take of looking at the number on the door and turning it and going back out. But we didn't get far with that. I wonder if those tapes are around anywhere. We could be blackmailed with them.
They were, or they could put them on the air and we could make a fortune. How about that?
Oh,
Joan and Dick together again. I can see the album.
I'm sure we signed a release for them in some way.
But that's where they're stupid. They wouldn't take a chance because we were nobodies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of people hear these wonderful stories years later where they go, and that person was Bob Dylan. You know, that guy. I know someone who said he got the original Garfunkel, Simon and Garfunkel tape. Freddie Weintraub, who tells the stories on himself, who used to own the bitter end.
Yeah.
Marvelous man. Discovered many people, Peter, Paul, and Mary, the big three, the Mamas, the Papas. And Simon and Garfunkel sent him a tape and said, listen to this. And he said, Simon and Garfunkel, nobody listens to people with that name. Threw it in the drawer. 4 years later, he pulls out the tape when they're famous, puts it on. It's the whole original album. Every great song was on it. See, you make mistakes.
And he could have had it.
He could have had it, but he had everybody else.
But money doesn't bring... What is it again it doesn't bring?
I don't know. Brings a lot.
Yeah. Did you ever in your wildest dreams, and I mean this kind of at the risk of being slightly serious, back in those days when we were playing the little clubs and stuff, were you sure that you would, as they say, get there? Or did you ever think about it? I'm not sure I did. Or did you know that someday it would be a world of limousines and hairdressers and big time and Vegas and headlining? Did you know in your bones?
Oh, never thought it would happen.
Really? Honestly?
I'm very honest.
Yeah.
Never. I was just so driven I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
But I never thought I would ever make it. It was inconceivable not to be broke. It was inconceivable not to worry about, would you have enough money to live on next week? Could you get, I used to get the equity shoes. Remember, twice a year, if you're a member of Equity, they gave you free shoes.
Forgotten Equity shoes. I repressed that. You can get a free pair of shoes thanks to some benefactor.
Some wonderful man who said if you're not working and you have an Equity card, you can get the shoes twice a year. Yeah. Wonderful thing that he did. I didn't know. I never thought there would ever be anything different.
That's not universal, you know. There are people, I don't know if Streisand's one. Hepburn certainly is.
Who knew from the beginning
she was going to be a star. Why, never doubted it.
It's wonderful. I wish I had that confidence now.
Of course, I think she denies that. Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Is anybody in our business so confident that they don't feel that it's going to all vanish someday?
Bob Hope.
Hope. Yeah, but even then I'm not sure, because some years ago when somebody published that he had some ludicrous amount of money that he doesn't, $700 billion or something, it wasn't so much that he was upset about the inaccuracy of it. He just thought, they won't laugh at me anymore. People will believe this and not laugh. No one's going to laugh at anybody, you know.
That is, unless you pay them. So, you got that kind of money.
You never thought of that.
Screw it. Here's 10 for you, 10 for you, 10. There'll be another 5 if you really break up. Oh, absolutely. I find today, and I'm doing well, thank God. In our business, you don't know. Again, knock on
vinyl. Yeah, that's always a good idea.
But I buy doubles of everything, so when it goes away, I'll still have a good sweater. If I like something, I buy doubles. Two pair of the same shoes, 2 pair of the same slacks. Really? Always 2s.
It's like W.C. Fields had that attic full of booze in case his career went to...
In case the cellar went.
Yeah. Yep.
But it makes sense. Aren't you insecure? Don't you feel it can all be over?
Oh, sure. And on days when you do a bad show or something, you think, well, it's all been a fluke except tonight. This is the reality. This is the one. This is the way it is. Yeah. But do you feel the strain anywhere in particular? Do you have headaches? Do you sleep well? Do you?
I get chest pains. I get
the classic psychosomatic.
And my whole left arm when I'm on stage, I work with the mic on this arm. And if I've been doing 2 shows, I get into bed and there's such pains up and down your arm. And then you think, which the National Enquirer said, she's screaming with pain, she's going to retire. Oh, please. But I know it's from all that tension while you're on stage.
Joan collapses is the very least they print about you if you get a sore hand or something
I
like
believe in the Enquirer, though.
But does that mean...
Hitler lives. Bar mitzvah pictures, page 12.
Yeah,
I mean, just,
well, they couldn't print if they weren't true. We all know
Jew
that.
kidnapped, forced to shop at Kmart. They've got...
No, I missed that one.
You didn't see that issue?
I didn't see that issue. But people steal them out of my mailbox. So, but, you know, isn't it funny the first time you see something about you that isn't true in print, you believe it? Because all your life you've thought, oh, these people, of course they deny this stuff. But the phrase you always hear, it has to be true or they couldn't print it.
There's got to be some modicum of truth.
Where there's smoke.
There's fire.
Now, 1,000,000 times we've seen smoke without fire in our lives, and yet people go on to...
Starting in my kitchen. But, but they say, I'm just glad that they say anything, you know what I mean? I just love to be in the Enquirer. It just kills me.
Have you ever had that thing happen, though, where you really get pasted by a critic, you know? I mean, like, there was a thing once, I think it was Kay Gardella, another Cavett fiasco.
Oh, I get it a lot now.
And she likes me. That gives you some idea how bad it was.
I'm sorry.
And a newsman, no, I mean a taxi driver, that they said, hey, you had a nice write-up in the Daily News today. Now, he wasn't trying to make me feel better. He just, you know, they see your name, they maybe read a word or two, so it's just a nice write-up. So that we're the ones who worry about those things, but no one else does.
Oh, but the press has turned against me very badly in the last 2 years, 3 years. It's interesting.
Have you seen that happen with everybody, though? They let out a certain amount of line, and then... I mean, some people have a theory, very respectable people, that this really happens, that it's almost part of human nature. You cheer for the kid who's coming up and knocking off the biggies and better than so-and-so, and then after a while, you see them with their big cars and yachts and things, and you start to say, they're not so hot. Time to put them back in line. I don't know, that's a conspiratorial theory, but...
Edgar says, then they turn around again when you become the grand old man of comedy. It's like, so Johnny Carson, who, as we know, is talk show people, 23 years, #1 in his time slot, still, and the press is knocking him all over the place. And you want to say, you go do it for 23 years and come out #1. I get so angry when I see that.
That's the only...
Just #1. Just not there.
Yeah, and the only thing, that's the only trouble with his being on that long is that you not only, they do take him for granted and assume, I've forgotten how good he is. He doesn't know how good he is. You know that from knowing him. And, well, of course, yeah. And you're not so bad yourself. By the way, could we strike one phrase from talk shows for the rest of all time? You know the one I mean? May I just say one thing about this person sitting here? You know that one? And then some awful verbal valentine comes forth that makes you want to... Oh, I'm sorry, that's a vulgar gesture. But you know what I mean?
I wouldn't know.
We'll recover in a moment. Be right back. It's interesting to hear you talk like a person, and I know you know what I mean.
Sure.
You know what I mean by that. I mean, the people who see your act only, although they see you in a talk situation on the Tonight Show and all, but people always say, "Is she smart? Is she real? Is she, you know, who?" I don't know why they wonder that about you. I always try to convince them that you are all these things.
Or two out of three.
Well, you were... No, you should never reveal this kind of thing about anyone on the air, but Phi Beta Kappa at Barnard. Yeah. Would you happen to have any of your old papers, like Ibsen's Dollhouse, a manifesto of suffragism, or any of those things?
Did you keep all yours?
Did you have to write that kind of...
I wrote a paper on the imagery of the word sun in King Lear. S-U-N and S-O-N.
S-U-N.
And S-O-N.
Ah.
And you know that poor dopey Shakespeare didn't know what he was doing. He was, you know, just
Oh, I see it all now. Now the play makes sense. Oh, yes, tracing imagery patterns and all those things we did. Did your education help you at all? Like when the kid says, Miss Rivers, should I go to college or should I go into showbiz?
Oh, we say college.
Yeah.
I think it just matured me. Didn't it help you? Really? You feel better.
It's not essential because obviously many people have made it without it, and it certainly doesn't have any direct, intrinsic application. But I just think if you get a chance to get a good education, what in the world could be better than that? Think of the people who envied it, like Groucho and all the people who didn't get
But
to.
I find that people that don't go think it's much more important than people that do go.
Yeah, what you didn't have seems wonderful.
That's why I'm still trying for a chinchilla coat. You know, I know it'd be great.
But the nerds that one went to college with who didn't make anything of it, I think of the people who'd love to have gone.
Yeah, remember all the meanies?
Can you take a reunion?
I won't go near a reunion. First of all, who are all these older people? You know, who are these people?
I know.
This woman that has obviously given birth to 12 children, there's still 6 more inside of her. This was not my roommate, you know.
No, you see your classmates
And the guys there was a guy I was in love with at Yale, and he called up, and he's like 25 years old. I said, I'm going to come and see you. I had my husband crazy. I was putting perfume behind the knees, like God knows, under the ankle. Well, just in case, you know, he never got in there. You know. I walked into the club. There was a guy sitting on 3 bar stools. You know, that's what I like, you know.
Oh, isn't it astounding what time can do?
Not to a man. It's a man's world.
Could you put the final, whatever it is on this? Did you, in fact, suffer from your appearance as a kid so much so that it was really painful, or was it just something that you've made a lot about in comedy? It sounds awfully naive, I suppose.
Oh.
Is it?
Oh, when your own mother won't walk down the street with you. I mean, the truth. One time she just said, she never really didn't walk down the street, and she told me years later, she was really embarrassed at one point to walk with me, and she did because she was a wonderful woman. But you have to feel that as a child.
Now, this is you, the offstage Joan, talking.
Big, fat lump of a child. They would go for a drive. They'd take me with them in U-Haul. You know, all those jokes start.
Yeah.
But she said that I was so ugly at one point. When puberty hit, like, it knocked me down. And she would say she just dreaded having to say, this is my daughter. So obviously I felt that somewhere. This is my daughter. And you never get over that.
So when you saw the movie of Charles Laughton and Hunchback of Notre Dame, you said to yourself, if only I were made of stone like thee, and all that. But you wonder about that. Is that pain necessary to being a comedian? You know, the old theory that you get out there and you have to be loved by thousands of people, and that makes up for it. Would you? Here, now I know what I want to ask. Would you trade, if you truly suffered, and you've convinced me and others that you did.
You saw my thighs.
A happy...
You know I have.
Now, bear with me. Would you trade a happy childhood, if you could do it over, for what you now have?
No way.
Well, there you are.
No way. I am so lucky. Are you kidding? Thank you, God. Oh, whatever I suffered as this little fat pig in Brooklyn, it was worth it. I'm telling you. I'll sign right up for the next life. Let's do it again and make her fatter and uglier. Absolutely.
Well, what you've
I'm
just
having a
said
good
then is
time.
inspiring to both people who look all right and people who feel they don't, can all turn out happily.
Oh, I would love, whenever I see really a homely child, I want to go over and say, it's going to be okay. Because this is going to help you get the drive to put you in the limo. It's going to be okay. Be glad you're a real piggo. Be glad your mother named you Fido. Be glad. I think, but see, I don't think it's just comedians that are sensitive. I think that's our egos. I think everybody's a walking wound. Every single...
Walking wounded.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Just an open wound, just wanting to be loved. You go to the audience, anybody here, they'll tell you that, really want to know the truth, I just want to be loved. You know.
Have you been in psychiatry? I don't really know for sure if you have or not.
Never.
Not once? Not
once. I went to one person this year.
One session?
One session, because what an air conditioner man did to me. I had to talk it out.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, now I've almost got it. It's a joke, I know. What the air conditioner man did to me, exhaust, fan, low cool. No, I don't get it.
It's not a joke.
Oh.
This scum put air conditioning into my house for 5 months and nothing works, and it got Edgar crazy. I thought Edgar was going to have another heart attack. It was so horrendous. It upset me so much. I had to go to a doctor. I'm not lying. I broke out in hives.
But that sort of thing would make anybody crazy. You go to the doctor to find out why you're putting pickles in your ear.
Yes, or why an air conditioner man is making you crazy at this stage of the game.
That's true. But
I wanted
really...
to buy a gun and kill him. I really said I better talk. Oh, have you ever had someone that doesn't come by and do it like you promised? Oh, at one point you just said it's either him or me.
Yeah.
And I'll be acquitted. I'll just take the jury into my house and let them sweat for an hour.
Sweat is the best defense. How did you? How did the doctor help you? Did he say, well, now? Do you associate the air conditioning with either of your parents or anything like that? Or did he just say...
He said to me, you better relax. You're on the brink. It really was like the straw that was going to break a lot of things. It was horrendous.
What you're saying is that you then had built up a great amount of tension and anxiety, and you've had a rough year or two.
Yeah. With my husband's illness. And it all just...
And your father died almost in the same year, in the same calendar year.
Same calendar year. And then 2 dogs. I know it doesn't sound the same. You have to put 2 dogs to sleep, which if you love your animals, and you have to make that decision.
This is an almost awful thing to say, and to some people I would think, but it's almost worse when an animal dies, and many people know it is and yet don't want to say it. And I find the reason you feel that is that you have mixed feelings about every human being, no matter how close they are to you, and it's agonizing when one of them dies, but an animal you don't have mixed feelings about. They just totally adore you.
Love you.
And you them. And so those are the only probably perfect relationships possible in life, with the example of maybe 1 or 2 marriages in the history of the world.
It's the only thing that just unconditionally adores you. It's like a child, an animal.
These are the experiments they did with people in old age homes who were suffering from anxieties and depressions, and some brilliant person, he was in Florida, brought them pets. Some of them never had them, or some had. Oh, God, I just remember one of the most moving things that happened on the ABC show one night. I was rehearsing the dog food commercial, this beautiful dog, and they said, by the way, the woman who owns him has been put in a home in Florida. They wouldn't let her take her dog. So she's going to be watching the show tonight and see this dog. I can hardly get through telling this. And so somebody brought these people dogs. Immediately, the high blood pressure people got better blood pressure. They had something to think about. They could put electrodes on them and experiment. When they touched the dogs, blood pressure, heart rate, various things improved. Their lives were changed.
It's just a wonderful thing to love.
Magic.
Everybody needs something you can just gush and carry on over. That's why you take a baby and you kiss each little toe and you kiss that little tushy. And you just love it and just so happy to. And that's what a child is, and that's what a little puppy is.
Yeah. Isn't it funny now?
Cat. You know, you're going to get letters. Well, you didn't like cats. You know. There's always somebody out there. You don't like your ass. Oh, please.
We'll be back. We'll be back.
Tomorrow on Decades, Dick Cavett sits down with comedian Jackie Mason.
I always was desperate about becoming a star.
Tomorrow on Decades.
That was an interesting quote from Edgar there, because I was just thinking it was, some people it's a novelty to see you go maybe for 4 sentences without getting a laugh because you're so skilled at it. And at that moment, it was rather nice when you were describing holding a baby and touching each of the 10 toes, and I expected you would say, then you go to the other foot, you know, or something. And you've got me thinking like you. Now, of course, I will... Now, you know what'll happen? No matter what you do like that, you get a letter that contains the phrase, for you see, Mr. Cavett, for you see, Miss Rivers. I was enjoying your show the other night, right up to the point where you did that crude joke, and such, because, for you see, Mr. Cavett, I have 10 toes on 1 foot. And if you think it's fun...
picture. You always get a picture.
And until you have walked in my moccasins, which are about this wide. Now, see, we're making... It's the influence that you have on me.
Signed, Bigfoot Schwartz. Come and find me. You know,
I like the fact that I don't know when you've sat still for the kind of probing I might be likely to give you. I said to the AP or the UP or any damn P, that quote from, who's that from? Tennessee Williams' play. from Cavett, that I was going to rip the mask of hypocrisy from your face, or wherever you happen to be wearing it. And, but I don't know what it is about that. You didn't put any terms on this talk. You didn't say...
I said I'd
don't ask
rather
me
not be funny.
Rather not be funny.
Because then it takes the pressure off of me.
Yeah.
You know, when you certain shows you have to be funny on, as you well know. The Carson show, when you come on as a guest, you come on to be funny. That's your little slug. And that is such tension. Because if you're not funny, you failed.
Even you can fear a talk show appearance now? Or
I
does
eat like a pig before a talk show appearance. It's like going to the chair. You know what I mean? Like, oh.
Where else do you feel it? When you wake up in the morning, are you already worrying about it? Or the hour before airtime the worst? Or just when?
I start to worry the week before. I'm horrendous.
Yeah.
And then it builds and builds and builds. And that morning, I'm just the bitch of the world. I mean, that's it. And it lasts all through the day until the show. Then if the show's a success, oh, hello. And if the show is not a success, just don't come near me till tomorrow morning.
Now, what about that mythical notion that they tell you in kids' books about if you want to be a performer, don't worry about your nerves, because the minute you step out on stage, they will all vanish.
Sure.
Does that happen?
I find myself saying things backward. I'm so nervous. I'm so tense. I never relax. You know, when it's an audience, you may start to enjoy them, but you still can never totally relax. You're still... They've paid to see you, and you must give them back something. And that means you can't be relaxed.
Yeah. Have you ever tried a total attack on that tension, like some people do, where they will, well, like a violent tennis game or a tough dance class or swimming just before, you know, after violent exercise, you think, oh, I wish I felt like this when I do a show. It's impossible to be nervous. I'm so relaxed now. I could walk right out on the stage.
I don't exercise. I'm Jewish. You know what I mean? If God wanted me to bend over, he would put diamonds on the floor. No, I'm too nervous. I think but the energy is working for me. The tension works. So obviously, I don't want to change anything because something's working.
Yeah, yeah.
What if you're so relaxed you come out and you do a terrible show? Milt Kamen, may he rest in peace, once said to me, they just love you enough you can get by on personality. And I said, oh, I knew even then, he's wrong. You can't get by. You better know, if you're going to walk on stage, you better know you're going to have 12 jokes on Christy Brinkley or 3 jokes on the newest fashion. You better know where you're going, because they want to know. They're paid to see something.
But do you see yourself as different from other performers? Now, you don't feel that Jack Benny, when he stood on stage, was racing and feeling the same nervous shocks and angst that you feel when you're on stage, do you?
I just think he was so special. I heard Fred Allen, though, was very tough and very mean and nervous backstage.
I read that he said every time he had a laugh, he thought, I got through that one, thank God, just get me through the next one. That he died at what killed him. Greatest comic burden anybody ever carried. I guess he wrote a brilliant show week and then did it. Monday, the typewriter. Do you still sit at the Underwood and write a joke out?
I write it on longhand now.
Do you really?
Yeah, because I have longer nails. So, yeah, I write them out, and then I try them out, and boy, when you think it's going to be great and it doesn't work, it's so awful. It's like having a child taken away from you. I wrote a great joke, okay? I think it's very funny. Heidi Abramowitz, my friend the tramp, okay? This is a joke that did not work. She'll do anything for a good time. She was seen crawling out of a body bag. Now, see?
Oh, I just got it.
I thought that was
the worst joke I've ever...
That's what the audience thought.
Yeah.
I said, I went, and you notice you're laughing alone. It's like,
oh, what sick person did you buy that from?
I wrote him.
Oh, you wrote it. Oh, I see.
But sometimes you just go, that's it.
Sometimes something's the ultimate joke, and I think that's the ultimate joke in that direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some jokes that just from nowhere work, and you go, isn't this wonderful? It came so easily, and it is funny. We all think it's funny.
Do you agree that you can do humor on any subject? It isn't the subject that makes it bad. You know what I mean? I mean, I think people say, that's one thing you don't joke about. I can't think of anything you don't joke about. If it's a good...
If it maybe a child's death. You know what I'm saying? Religion, I laugh because religion is very funny, but if you get everybody's religion, and they all know you believe in God, okay, now we're all going to do a little joke. I do that. I do, you don't think the Pope has a sense of humor? You know somewhere he's going, tell Marie Osmond to loosen up. How do you know it?
That's sort of it.
He's got to have a sense of humor. But the only thing is probably children's death. That's the only thing I would really... When my mother died, who I was the closest to in the whole world of anybody ever, I mean, my best friend, I got through the funeral by making jokes. That's how it got me through the funeral.
By finding ludicrous things about funerals, or just...
Well, my mother always said, don't show up at my funeral unless you look good, because all those rotten relatives will be there, and I don't want them to say, don't Barbara and Joan look terrible. That's my sister.
Yeah.
She said, you look good and don't you come. She was just wonderful, my mother. So Aunt Ritter won't say, don't they look terrible? You know, so we went to the beauty shop that morning because we knew my mother would want us to look terrific, and we adored my mother. And I said to the guy, if you don't get me finished on time, you're going to be doing my mother's hair in an hour. And the guy went like, oh, he dropped the comb. Oh. But I adored her, and that's how I got through it. And then I still mourn her. It's 10 years, and I just miss her, miss her, miss her.
Have you ever broken up at a funeral and laughing, the way on that great Mary Tyler Moore show where she got the giggles at a funeral?
The Paul Lynde funeral.
Oh, wait. Tell us when we come back, because I don't want you to be interrupted by a message. Message, hell, a commercial. Seeing Elizabeth Taylor's, that reminded me of that dirty trick I pulled on you once. You may even remember. You may have repressed it. I came on with you one night on Johnny's show, and when you were hosting, and I had just seen Miss Taylor in Chicago, and I had this note, and it was this isn't it, but because I've saved it, obviously for obvious reasons. But it was, dear Joan, you know, I've heard some of the things you've said about me, and some of them are a little hurtful, and so on. But I've always admired your work, and I just hope maybe someday we can meet and be friends, and if not, I think we do have to learn to laugh at each other, and so on. Elizabeth Taylor. And in reading it, I got kind of moved, and you look so...
Oh, you're terrible.
And then I put, P.S., stick it in your ear, which I understand is the only part of you above the neck that is really yours. And I felt, at one point it was playing so well, I didn't want to do the joke part. And people asked, was that real?
Again, was that real? People are never sure.
But I listened to an old, and we're going to get back to that subject, but of Paul Lynde, but I listened to a tape of a time you were on, one of the many times you came through for me, as they say. And you talked about the possibility of a facelift, and I timorously said to you, would you ever have one? And you said, are you...
Anything. Any place, you have a knife, I've got 20 minutes. Absolutely.
You name it, you'll lift it?
You got it.
Yeah.
I started again to say before, it's a man's world. A man gets older, he gets better looking, the lines make them handsomer, craggier, whatever, you know, better. And a woman, you just look older, like an old... Oh, yeah, I've had my face done, had my nose thin. It's my real nose, but it was chubby. I had it thinned down a year and a half ago. I had my eyes done the year Melissa was born.
What does it mean, eyes done? What do they do?
Well, they moved one from here to there, and they didn't...
You had the right number of them,
yeah, I had
as
the
I
right
recall.
number, but they were both the same size.
There was the third ear, but I mean, no one's ever seen that. You don't still have the tattoo, do you?
I gave it to Cher.
Oh. They're not transferable. We're running out of time. Whatever time it is, we're running out of time. We're talking about funny funerals.
Paul Lynde, who was wonderful, and I worked again with him on Hollywood Squares, and we would always usually try that he would sit in the center box, and I would sit on the right of him. And when he didn't like people on the left, he would turn to me and go, and the Lennon sisters, who are lovely and terrific and nice, terrific, lovely girls, used to sit on the left, and he hated them. They were too good for him, and they'd go on, he'd go, comes his funeral, and we all said, I'd like to say a few words about Paul and things. The Lennon sisters, who adored him because they're lovely girls, said, may we sing? And nobody had the guts to say no. So they stood
Don't tell
up,
me.
and they were singing over his casket. And those of us that knew that Paul used to go, we got hysterical. And we were waiting for the box to open, the casket. And they had no idea, and they're nice girls. He just used to always... And they sang this wonderful hymn over the box, you know, and we just would go...
And people wondered why you were so rude and thoughtless, I'm sure.
You know, what kind of people are you?
Yeah. I know that it was no secret that he was not as witty as he appeared in that show. He would be frank about this and say, look, a lot of that's prepared by me or whomever and all, but his delivery was deadly, wonderful.
He was just brilliant.
Go ahead.
Were you on there the time
that the thing was, These two people are angry at Eddie Fisher, according to this week's papers. Who are they? And you know how Lynn would always look thoughtful for a moment. His fans. What a...
Jay Reddick wrote a lot of that.
Yeah.
It was brilliant, Jay.
They used to have that thing at the end that some of these things were not entirely... Anyway.
But it doesn't matter who wrote it. It's who it comes out of. I mean, you could give the same line somebody else would. Paul Lynde was just brilliant the way he said those lines.
Doesn't it gall you when you hear someone say, oh, if I had Bob Hope's writers, if I had her writers, or
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
if I had her material, and, you know, I'd be, well, yeah.
Except you're
You would
missing
if you also had that person's talent, brains, ability to pick things, to edit, to perform, and...
the whole person. Bob Hope is just incredible. 82, 83, 84, whatever he is.
Yeah,
and the man still goes on. It's such... You go, there is one lucky person.
I know, I saw you introduce him one night, and you get the same effect I did. You sort of feel like you're introducing the Statue of Liberty or the Grand Canyon or something like that. Would Edgar make a brief appearance if we hauled him
Edgar,
out here?
Please come on, for love. Come on.
He doesn't want to do it.
Come on, come on.
Good. Oh, we can't even afford a chair. Do you have a chair for Mr. Rosenberg? Edgar, have mine. See what it feels like.
No. Nobody can take your place.
Thank you.
There, comes to him.
Now,
Do we have a microphone for him? Oh, you have a microphone.
Edgar, have a chair, and you may have to talk into your wife's left lapel because she has the microphone.
He hasn't been in that area for years.
Be a novelty.
All right. Well, Edgar, we have only time to say how nice to see thee well. I believe that's from Hamlet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Coming from you, I'm not so sure.
Well, we've been... we used to joke a lot in the late nights in the stage delicatessen about whether either of us should show our faces in public.
Never picked up the check, did you?
No.
Hey, don't be trying to be funny.
There was a guy with...
Don't be funny. People aren't expecting it of you.
Get a laugh, she'll throw you out of the house. We'll be back to say goodbye shortly. Stay with us. Damn, there's so many things we didn't get to because this has been such
come
a
back.
treat. Would you come back?
Oh, I
How
have
about
to come
tomorrow?
back. Sure.
No, you didn't even...
I have a new book next year, so I have to come back next year.
You can come back for that if
have
we're
to-
still here. Yeah, so we didn't ask questions from the audience. Someone named Joan Malinsky wanted to know if you had premarital sex and why your first marriage broke up, and if you divorced Edgar, why would you do it and all. What sort of person would ask questions like that of someone on
My
television?
sister. That's
Oh, Melissa.
Melissa.
Oh, your daughter, yes.
my daughter, God bless her.
Lord, when I first saw her, she was a tiny little thing.
And now she's in college.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Still
got to be a
small.
tough moment.
That's no, it's a tough moment when they leave the nest.
Say, well, let me be the last to congratulate you on how beautifully you handle your career and how you've managed to get through the year of difficult work and how hearty your husband looks and how nice you are and what a treat I feel it is to have you here. I'm sentimental about you and I want to...
I'm sentimental about you. You know that.
Yeah.
That's sweet. There's so few of us that go back and have great memories, and it's
I know.
wonderful to
So many still
talk.
around.
So few
Few
of us still around. We're dropping like flies.
Flies, left and right.
My Christmas card list is 3 people. You know?
We're not the new comedians anymore.
No.
Oh, when the young ones come up to you and say, I loved you since I've been 7. What?
Yeah,
You little bitch, what did you say to me? I loved you since I was 7. Go to hell, now you're never gonna be 8. I mean,
Oh, well, Joan, thank you for showing us not only your charm and your humor, but your emotional range. And we'll see you next time. Thank you both.
Thank you.
It's been a great time.